I think my heart now beats for three. Obsessed and so obscure. You and me and Christopher Lee. Obsessed and so obscure. I think my heart.
Welcome, everyone, to Obsessed and So Obscure, a Matt Berry music podcast. I'm Tara, and as usual, I'm joined by the lovely Courtney.
Hello.
And Jessie.
Hi.
Today we will be discussing and breaking down the Milkbone album, and we thought who better to help us with this than Milkbone and Maypoles drummer James Sedge. Welcome, James.
Hello, good afternoon.
So as you guys might remember, James has contributed to the show previously via Q&A, but today he is live and in person via Zoom, and we are so excited that he's here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So as Tara mentioned, today we're going to talk about Milkbone. Milkbone is the prog-tastic collaboration between James Sedge, Matt Berry, and Phil Scragg. It was released on December 20th, 2021, initially only on very limited edition translucent red vinyl. Only 200 copies were released, and there is a run-out error, which makes them even more special. Side A contains the Side B info and vice versa. The album was later released on CD and digital streaming as of March of 2022. As we mentioned, the musicians on Milkbone are Phil Scragg on keyboards, bass, and guitar, Matt Berry on keyboards and guitar, James Sedge on drums, and then additionally, Graham Mann plays trombone, and he also does some percussion on tracks 2, 8, and 9, which we'll talk about. And Cecilia Phage also provides some vocal sampling, which we'll also talk about. And then the cover art was painted by Matt Berry, which we've talked about in previous episodes, which will be familiar to anybody who's seen Toast of London.
There was not a whole lot of press around Milkbone, but James, you did give an interview to Louder, a music blog, on November 11th, 2021. Louder said, having previously worked together in Matt Berry and the Maypoles, the seeds of the idea of a group coming together on the band's tour bus, where they shared their mutual admiration for 1970s era progressive and electronic music. James, you said, we decided to make an instrumental album that channeled and referenced our shared love of Canterbury era prog, mixed with European electronica, electric period Miles Davis, as well as a love of the instruments, both acoustic and electric, associated with those genres. We were aspiring to get some of the atmosphere and wonkiness of the recordings of that era, rather than the sterile production you occasionally encounter in contemporary production. We all enjoy the sound of real instruments playing, and with sequenced synths, the perfection of the sequencer with the imperfection of live drums and bass. We left in all the quirky feel things, so it wouldn't sound overproduced and polished. So
I said that, did I? Well,
you did.
That was quite good. I'm impressed with myself.
That was really fantastic.
I must have had help with that.
We have a few more quotes too, so you're going to hear more of your own voice. But I did want to ask, prog is kind of a newish genre for most of us. Actually, listening to Matt's music and his work with the Maypoles really helped us to explore prog music. What tracks and albums would you suggest for someone just getting into prog, and who are some of your favorite prog bands?
Oh dear, this is a thorny issue amongst prog fans. You know, they're quite unforgiving.
We don't shy away from controversy here.
You have to be careful not to scare the horses here. You know? Yeah, because people hold very strongly held beliefs about what's right and what's wrong and what's prog even. You know, there are whole debates whether certain albums are prog enough. But I think Phil and I grew up in the 70s. So we grew up with early Genesis, Pink Floyd, and the Canterbury bands. So we live in Kent. So Phil's in London now, but he was actually born quite close to where I am now, in Sevenoaks. And just about 30 miles from here is Canterbury. And there was this whole scene in the late 60s and 70s with some really creative musicians who were really quirky, unusual. So let me think. We've got bands like National Health, Gong, Steve Hillage. I think I made a list somewhere. Who else have I got? Soft Machine. I know Matt particularly likes Henry Cow because he messaged me to say, can you make it sound like Henry Cow? And I listened to Henry Cow and I thought, oh, that's really difficult. Thanks, Matt. So yeah, that kind of 70s Canterbury, late 60s thing. Caravan is another band you should listen to.
Okay.
It's certainly quirky. Some of the lyrics are a bit based on mythology. A lot of them are public school boys. You know, they're classically trained people that rebelled. You know, they found drugs. They wanted to do something else and rebel against the system. So yeah, there's a big scene locally here of that sort of thing. And me and Phil just always talked about it. And so when we got the gig with Matt, sitting on the tour bus, it was just a delight because, like, do you like Mike Oldfield? Yes. Oh, great. You know, because I think Matt was used to people saying who. And then, of course, you know, we just spark off something. And when we started working on Matt's stuff, it wasn't particularly progressive. It was more folky, really. The first one I did was Kill the Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
See it behind you there.
Oh, yes. I was looking through my stuff to remind me. I was thinking, I've got this box set, and I looked it up, and I must sell it. No, I must not sell it.
You will get a lot of money for that.
It was quite expensive. I was thinking, wow, okay. So, yeah, that was our kind of prog beginnings. So, you know, when we did Matt's thing, there were always those influences. So in the studio, Matt might suggest something, like play it like Henry Cow. Or I remember him once saying, can you play this song like the drummer for Kate Bush on the first album? And I remember thinking, wow, okay. Luckily, though, I know that album really well. So it's a really good way of communicating amongst musicians, because how on earth would you describe that to another musician?
True.
I don't think you have the vocabulary to do it, actually. But as soon as you can say, make it more like this musician, everything opens up. So we got on really well recording that way. So the Milkbone album was inevitable.
How far back do these conversations stretch? How long has this album been kind of percolating?
Oh, well, the album was really kind of accidental. The conversations about the band started in 2010, really, on the first tour bus, where Andy Vickery got me into the band. And then suddenly I thought, this is home. This is great. You know, it's really nice people, great music. And Matt was very entertaining to be on tour with.
I'm sure.
He was, I remember, this is pre-Toast. I remember him doing the Toast voice a lot as we just drive along the motorway, and I didn't realize that he was actually practicing. So he'd read out the road signs.
My god.
And it was immediately hilarious. So we were all just creased up laughing as he would just read things out randomly in the voice.
You were the test audience.
Course, we didn't know,
right,
you know, what was going to happen with that. So we started chatting about these sort of bands, and our love of Jean-Michel Jarre and synthesizers, and it all kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? That, you know, Jean-Michel Jarre is a very kind of, back in the 70s, it was very hands-on. It wasn't just all computerized, because it couldn't be then.
Right.
So there's lots of little glitchy things and imperfections, and that's what we all seem to like. You know, Matt really doesn't like things too perfect.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting to hear what his notes are for you too, because, you know, not reading music, not writing music, obviously not really drumming much. It's interesting to see how he relayed notes to you of what he wanted. That's always something that we're kind of like, well, how does he do that exactly? So that's interesting to say, okay, this is kind of the sound that I'm going for. Can you make it sound like this?
Yeah, and I got some demos over the years. Kill the Wolf, there were demos where it was kind of roughly programmed drums. Sometimes Matt played some drums, I think. And, you know, I think he's a frustrated drummer. But it's the one thing that he hasn't got time to get good enough. You know, everything else he can do.
Right.
You know, I always encouraged him as much as I could. Like, oh, keep going, keep practicing, thinking I'm going to do myself out of a job here. That's all right. I don't mind.
Now, because of COVID restrictions, because of when this album was recorded, it was recorded remotely with the three of you file sharing from your respective studios. You told Louder, the music came together surprisingly quickly, with ideas flowing between the three of us right from the start. There was a lot of freedom to improvise and change direction. Tracks would be sent back and forth with ideas added or subtracted. Occasionally, the contribution of one of us would be a complete surprise and take the music in a completely new direction. So how did you build off each other's ideas while you were recording separately?
Yeah, it was an interesting way of doing it, because obviously we had to do it that way. But we'd never record. I mean, most of the music world hadn't done that before, and there were unintended or unexpected consequences of recording separately, where you haven't got them in your ear suggesting things, but then you haven't got them in your ear kind of guiding you in a way that you may not want to go. So I had complete freedom, really. I would get a rough recording. I can play you some, actually.
That'd be great.
And then I could play whatever I felt, and then I didn't have the fear of... In the studio, musicians get terrible fear of failure. Terrible. You know, like the red light goes on, so to speak, recording light, and people tense up. And I tell you what, we all play it safe in the studio, because you don't want to spend the time trying something ridiculous and everyone, what do you do that for? It's like, I don't know, I just thought I could try. I never did it. So
Right.
I was on my own, and it was weird. It was a very weird atmosphere, because my town was empty. And I remember the first day walking through the town, and the shops are boarded up, and it's like, oh, I remember thinking, are we all going to die? You know, it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And I think we've all got a collective amnesia now.
Right.
I've spoken to a number of people where did that really happen?
It was
Yeah.
so surreal.
It really
the
was.
first few
It
months.
really was. And for me, I've got a dodgy immune system. So I actually got a letter from our government, and it said, do not leave your house under any circumstances. Do not go into the garden. You may open a window if no one is nearby.
Wow.
And that
Oh my
was
God.
signed Matt Hancock, one of our favourite politicians. And it was a bit of a shock for me, because, 2 weeks earlier, I'd been out on the road playing gigs and doing stuff. And I get this
Yeah.
letter saying, you might die if you actually meet anyone. So that was a bit of a scare.
I would
Yes.
imagine.
I walked down to my music school that I run with my partner, Julie. And it's just strange. It was like the Marie Celeste. I went in, and there were half-drunk cups of coffee in the rooms, and just no one around. And I thought, well, look, I shouldn't leave my house, but I'm going to. I'm going to go in here and start playing some drums, because there's a studio here that I've built and I've never really used. And I had to figure out how to use the studio. So that was the first couple of weeks, thinking, how does anything work? Because there was no one there to help me. Like normal, there's normally an engineer there. And how do I get this to work? Just do that. But I'm on my own. And I remember thinking, this might be the last thing I ever do. So I'm going to make it really good. I was determined not to be depressed. I just thought, I'm going to go the other way. And it brought out a wave of creativity, where I thought, right, if I'm going to go, I'm going to leave this, and it's going to be good.
That's so powerful.
It really is.
It really was quite something at the time, where every day I went in, I felt like I was risking myself just leaving the house. So I would kind of scuttle down the road, crossing the road if anyone was nearby, and they would cross the road awkwardly. And then, I'd find my way into the studio. Right, okay. The heating had failed, and so I was sitting there. It was really cold. I was playing in gloves, and I was thinking, right, come on, play hard, get warm. And then Matt and Phil started working on these demos, and it was all completely by accident. Phil said, "Oh, I might be doing something with Matt." I said, "Right, I want to be involved. I'll play drums. Let me play drums." And they said, "Well, look, have this first track." I think our first track we did was Canterbury.
How long did you have the studio set up and not using it?
About 6 years. So everyone used it, and I always had help. So I did a few things with people, but I was so busy running a music school, doing gigs. I was really, really busy. And so there's always someone there to help. But if you ever look into a recording studio, you'll see a lot of functions, a lot of switches, a lot of things to plug in. And it was, head in my hands. I have to make this work. I had recorded there before. I did a couple of tracks from Matt on the TV Themes album from there.
Wow.
I did the Rainbow and the Liverbirds track.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I did it. I mean, I think I had help. I had Phil on the phone going, plug this in here, Okay. And there's Matt saying, I need it by tonight, 6 o'clock. And I'm like,
Oh God.
Got to get
No
it
pressure.
Got to get it done. So I covered the drum kit in tea towels, kind of 1970s Ringo style. Matt wanted, and I managed to record them, but I'd never done it on my own. And there's just me in a room thinking, how do I make this work? So it was weird. It's a positive thing, really. It's taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
I took control back.
A lot of people had positivity from a really bad situation, and it sounds like that's something positive that happened to you. You finally learned the stuff. You're
I had to
self-sufficient
give up
now with
most
it.
of my life. I gave up. I had to give up teaching. I had to give up gigging. I had to give up going out anywhere. And for me, it actually lasted 3 years because of my immune system not being particularly great. When everyone else started coming out again, I get more advice saying, aha, but if you go out, you still might die.
Terrifying.
It really
So
is.
I've done 3 years of it, and I thought, well, I need to come out of this sane. And I've done a lot of music, and it's the best music I've ever done.
Good.
So I'm thinking, well, okay, good. I may be slightly frazzled, slightly insane now. But, I've played on some really great music and contributed to some really fantastic albums and worked with some great musicians. So it's not all bad.
No, it's not. Yeah, that's the thing that's so weird about it, is that it's not all bad. So I'm glad that something positive came out of it for you. I'm glad that we got this resulting album and you didn't hold back. That's amazing. You mentioned briefly that there might be some additional Milkbone happening, possibly.
Yes, it's happening now.
Yay.
I've got a track that I'm working on from Phil so far. Matt has been involved in mixing another song that we've done, which I'm really excited by. It sounds really good. I love what Matt's done. Really creative. And I've been recording an outro to a song endlessly yesterday. I've got so many versions. It's one of these songs that is very ambient at the end, and you have to play something, but it mustn't get in the way, but it's still got to move things along. You've got to say something. That's the hardest thing to play.
Yeah, I would imagine with an all instrumental song.
You've got room to stretch out on an instrumental song when there's only 3 of you. See, I'm more of a song drummer normally. I love playing great songs. That's why it's been nice working with Matt, because his songs are so interesting. And I love working with vocalists. But this is a whole different thing, instrumental music, because you've got to bring something. You can't. I'm supporting the voice normally. Thinking, how is this tasteful? Is it in the pocket? Is it all these things? Now that's all gone. What can I provide to create excitement or an atmosphere? I love the challenge of both things, and Milkbone is so good for that.
Yes, it really is. And I'm going to ask you about that more when we get to the deep state too, because
yes,
I've noticed some of that in there as well. So yes, there is some Milkbone happening. New Milkbone is
there
happening
is, and I'm sitting here puzzling through it at the moment, trying to get something good enough to send back to Matt and Phil, because you've got to send something good to these guys.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, tell them we said hello.
Yeah, there's more pressure now because we've got to match what we did before as well, and maybe try to top it. And so there's some really good stuff. Phil sent me a folder of ideas. So yes, we're but it could be a while. This could take many months. Not because we're slow. It's just so much material to go through, and
I've
been working on this 60 seconds of music now for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Oh my God.
Find the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging in a good way. So for me now, I can listen to it today and think, I know what, I've missed something. Then I've got to go back down to the studio, do it again, bring it back here, sit here. And then, because I can't seem to do it in the studio, I need to be away where I'm not playing and listen to it in a different environment, and then I can hear it properly.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's just my thing. I don't think everyone else does that. But
no,
when you're playing drums, it's quite a challenge because, I envy, Phil playing bass, for instance, because he can sit there and he's right next to his computer and he can play bass and listen back and everything is with drums.
Right.
I've got 16 mics and, it's all got to be mixed down. And then, everything has to be EQ'd. Because drums sound terrible in a recording until you've really worked on them. Because you've got to cut out all the frequencies of the room and everything. I've been learning quite a lot about doing this. So yeah, it's quite a challenge to produce yourself on drums. I can see why a lot of people don't do it.
Interesting.
I enjoy the challenge.
Well, very interesting. Good to hear that Milkbone is in progress.
Oh, yes.
Crazy to think that we're talking to you about this Milkbone while you're working on volume 2 or whatever it'll be called. That's really exciting. So we'll look back.
Milkbone-ier.
Yeah. So should we jump into our track by track breakdown?
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Track number 1 is Canterbury. It starts off with like a heartbeat type rhythm and it goes into a building repetitive melody before a climactic opening. I think it's a really good intro song because it sort of hints at everything that'll be highlighted throughout the album. And even though like the last minute 15, there's a really good mellow jazz vibe that you'll hear that same jazziness later on as well. You said that Canterbury might be the first track that you recorded?
I think it was actually. Phil sent me a demo. Let's see if I can find it here. I really stuck. This is what I find interesting actually, because I haven't heard this in a couple of years. I stuck really close to Phil's initial idea. Sometimes I want to change it and no, I want to do my thing. But Phil really came up with something nice. And I thought, I'm going to really hang in there with this. So this is the demo, and you might be mistaken. You might think it's the original version, but let's play a little bit. So can you hear that there's programming there, and it's a bit clunky. You know, Phil obviously didn't want to spend a great deal of time knowing that I would come in and replace it. But it gave me a framework to listen to think, oh, okay, yeah, that would really work well. So this would be, and then this is what I did. I left a bit more space.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, I thought I'd leave the intro with some big crashes and some big dramatic fills, quite slow. You don't want anything too fast. But you could hear that Phil really gave me the framework of what to play. And I was really happy to stick to that. And then on the outro, the whole thing gets really bouncy with the trombone coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I just wanted to really accentuate the feel of the bounce. And even though it's quite progressive, you know, people sometimes think progressive means a lot of notes. It doesn't really. It's just a kind of, it's an attitude as much as anything. You know, I wanted it to just work as a piece of music and not imprint myself too much on the first track.
Yeah.
So that was Canterbury.
That's incredible that was a demo. It really is so complete sounding. But and then the things that you added to it really.
The final version sounds a lot warmer to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned that the original was a drum machine. Like you definitely hear that kind of human warmth, sort of like you discussed in that interview. Just that slight bit of, I don't want to say imperfect because technically it's virtuosic, but it's not as mechanical. Yeah,
and a lot of modern music is played on the grid. So, you know, there will be a grid of notes on your recording software. So, you know, I'm looking at one now, actually, and I can see all the lines that can be 16th notes, 8th notes, 32nd notes, lots of lines. And what happens in modern productions is that you can quantize real audio now. You never used to be able to do this. You could only quantize digital music, but now my drums can be quantized. So you just press a button and then everything goes zoop, and it's exactly perfect. And that sounds, to me and to Matt and to Phil, dreadful. And that's the problem I have with some modern music, where I just kind of go to sleep because there's never going to be a moment where I think, oh, that was a good bit. Mm-hmm. I like when the bass player came in a bit. You know, I was listening to, you know, an example, right? I was listening to The Faces do Stay With Me. It came up on my feed. I listened to it. The drummer, Kenny Jones, goes to the outro a whole 4 bars early.
Oh, God.
And it's a big time change. Goes from half time to double time. And they just left it. because it sounded really anarchic. So the drummer just kicks in, and they all thought, "Whoa, okay, now."
I love that. I love that. That's the wonkiness of it, but that's what makes it interesting to your ear.
It's very dangerous to, for us, because it's very hard to let it go. For instance, someone like Tom Waits, his stuff from Swordfish Trombones and Rain Dogs era is really wonky.
Yes.
It's all over the place. It's out of tune. It's out of time. It sounds like genius. But
Yes.
so how does he make that? If I play out of time, I sound like a bad player. But Tom Waits plays out of time. It sounds like, oh yeah, he really means to play out of time. I don't know how you do it. But that's what we tried to work on this. So stuff was not done to the grid. So if you were to put my drum fills up on the grid, you would see that they are either side of it all the way, and then you have to think, what's acceptable? Is this moving in the right way? And so much stuff is not done like that now. But I think that's why you get more of an emotional response to it if you can hear humans playing.
I agree 100%.
And I'm sure recording remotely like you did probably just enhanced that, because I would imagine there were times that you were just a little bit out of sync. And
oh yeah, there's a few versions where I listened back yesterday thinking, wow, I can see why I didn't send them that one. That was all. But what you do, it's a bit like sculpting, where like the first few chisel marks are not going to be the finished thing. You've got to find what you want. And so I can sometimes, like what I've been recording yesterday for Milkbone 2, there's 20 versions of something, and each one just moves on into another area where, yes, that will work. That fits better with that. Phil does a fantastic bass solo, really beautiful playing. And I'm just trying to catch the end of some of the notes. But I needed to make all the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But only I probably need to hear them, because they're not really mistakes. It's just you got to find it. You find the truth of the track. And so Canterbury was perhaps an easier one, really, because I just knew what to play on that one. There was 2 or 3 takes, and then it's like, bang, there you go. Got it.
Yeah.
I love
it's a good place to start.
Definitely. Something I wrote in my notes listening to this was, it feels like an overture. It's kind of a statement of purpose, which is something I've mentioned over and over as we've done these episodes in Max Music. There's always this starting track that just feels like an overture for what's to come, which totally makes sense given his love of like Jesus Christ Superstar. And
we always did an intro for, I was just it's so weird, talking to you today, and literally it's like this appeared out of nowhere as a pile of papers, and just sticking out I recognized this handwriting, and I thought, oh, it's a set list from and we always have this the Witch intro, so this would be about 2014 tour, and so we always did an overture on every tour. So we would construct elements of all the songs in the rehearsal studio, and then everyone would get some sort of exposure to the song in advance, and then when the song happens, it feels like an old friend coming back. So, oh yeah, I've heard that. Because most people didn't know Matt's material back here. We were playing small venues. We were playing to probably 300 seaters, and most people thought that they were going to see a comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, that was a real challenge. Matt was funny with the audience, but not overly funny, It's not jokes. So I think the overture was a really good idea to introduce them. And it was amazing watching their faces, because these overtures were really complex and interesting, and they would just stand there looking at us like, what?
This wasn't what I was expecting.
I like it. Garth Marenghi, they're thinking, what is going on? So it's a good point about Canterbury. I think it had to go first. There was nowhere else on the album it could go.
No.
It's strange, isn't it? Sometimes you move things around.
Yeah, it is strange. And it's also a good lesson that tracks listings are set by the artist for a reason. Like, we're used to listening to things in shuffle so often now because it's so easy.
Yeah.
But you kind of lose something sometimes, not always, but in an album like this and in an instrumental album, you definitely can. And this would be a good reason. It's very subtly an overture, but
it sets you up, doesn't it, for the rest
really
of
does.
the album?
Mm-hmm.
And I often say to my students about their listening habits and listening to whole albums, it's so hard to not skip
Yeah.
because we all make our minds up so quickly, me included, but I try not to because the stuff I remember, for instance, I remember buying when I was about 12, someone said, you've got to buy Dark Side of the Moon. It's the best album ever. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, all right, I will go and buy it. And I saved up, bought the record as it was then. I didn't like it. I sat at home thinking, well, I'd been listening to ELO and ABBA, which I still like. But
Nothing
This
wrong
is
with
the
either.
As well, you should.
Right.
yeah, this is the first step somewhere else, perhaps, And I sat there and thought, oh, I've spent $3.99 on this. I don't really like it. So the next day I thought, I'll play it again. By the fifth play, something kind of starts to happen. You think, this is actually really exciting. By the 10th play, it becomes, you find your way in. So, you really do, you owe it to the music, if you love music, to give it a really good chance of the whole album. Dark Side of the Moon needs to be heard.
Yes.
It doesn't work. Great Gig in the Sky needs to happen where it happens.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we always think of side A and side B. The end of side A needs to be Great Gig in the Sky. So, I that's what we wanted for Milkbone too. It had to be side A and side B when we were programming. Yeah, forgive my ranting. It's just, it's one of my bugbears about music and listening fully to the music.
Yeah, I
No,
agree,
and that's something
100%.
Jesse and I were just talking about the other day. How we both have Spotify accounts. We both love to find new music via Spotify, but you do, as you're saying, lose that cohesive album. And something that I wrote over and over in my notes on this is juxtaposition. There's these stark juxtapositions within songs, between songs, this great sense of contrast. This album does that so well.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time programming the album. So particularly me and Phil were doing versions and recording it as an album and sending it to each other, saying, what do you think of this? Oh, I hadn't thought of putting that there. Yeah, maybe we could put that third. And it took a bit of toing and froing, and it was really enjoyable, but really challenging, thinking it needs... But if you just heard Canterbury on its own, say you're on a shuffle on Spotify, and you think, oh, that's quite nice. You haven't heard the album.
Right.
It's if you stop there, great, but that's the introduction.
Right.
I hope people do that more. I mean, there's an older audience that grew up with that, and the younger people, some of them get it.
Yeah.
That's really something we've tried to do just with this podcast, is talk about the albums, how the albums flow, and each song kind of speaks to the others. We're all very, very big proponents of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could watch a scene of The Godfather and think that's a really good scene, but what about the bits either side of it that tells you what to feel about that scene? If I miss the first 3 minutes of a film, I can't watch it.
No, I'm the same way. So moving on to
the next track
yeah
is Leaving Hawksville. This song really kind of a technical show off. It's pounding, it's got those guitar and synth lines kind of unraveling on the top. Are those bongos at the beginning?
Yeah, they're congas actually.
Congas, okay.
Okay.
Any non-percussionist gets this wrong, so don't feel offended.
Okay, so this is the one Graham did.
Everyone gets it wrong. So bongos are the small things that you fit between your knees, and congas are the big drums, and they're normally in pairs too. So Graham Mann plays some wonderful percussion on this. I mean, he's such a great percussionist.
That's interesting. Okay.
Creates such a vibe, doesn't it? It's there's triangle. Even the triangle is really propulsive. It's like, oh yeah, I really like that. And it's all done live in real time. So normally a lot of things will be done on a loop where you have a bar of triangle, ching, 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 and it doesn't change. But Graham is playing it and muting it, and if you just listen to that one line, you think, God, he's really going for it here.
He's going
really
for it on
good.
the triangle.
The whole track is so
incredible.
It's kinetic.
I can't play percussion like Graham does. I haven't got a clue. I do play a bit, but Graham came in and Phil spent a day with him, and he really has contributed something quite exciting there. So the title of it's interesting. I
was
spoke
going to
to
ask you
Phil
about
yesterday.
that.
It's a sci-fi book.
Okay.
And by Robert Silverberg. And I just looked it up and it looks really interesting. I must read it. Phil's an avid reader, so such a great evocative title.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with instrumental music is, what do you call something? You haven't got a lyric.
Right.
But sometimes the name seems to take on extra meaning when you put
And
the name with the music.
spoiler alert, we're going to be asking you that a lot because the song titles on this album are very enigmatic.
Right.
I think I know some of them and not all of them.
I thought I
Okay.
saw on social media, I kind of vaguely remember a post where it used to be called Leaving Hawksbill Station, but somebody got tired of typing, so it just was Leaving Hawksbill after that.
Yeah, I think Phil said that.
I don't know if that was you or Phil.
Yeah, that was Phil. But yeah, and Matt had a big idea about, he wanted this to have a Bitches Brew, Miles Davis sort of feel. And it's interesting. It's good direction. The track doesn't end up sounding anything like it, but it put me in a mindset of, oh yeah, what would the drummers on Bitches Brew have played to this? Maybe something like this. So you have this connection between the two things, because it's quite a funky track, really.
Yeah,
It is.
it really is.
But I didn't want to play anything funky particularly. I wanted to play something with a bit more edge. I don't know if I've got I've got a demo here. This is what Phil sent me. This is all programmed. I thought, what the hell am I going to do here? So that was that was very, very dense, complex. Mm-hmm. So Phil set up a percussion loop and just left it on. And I thought, wow, there's so much stuff here already. I'm not sure. But this is what I actually tracked to. So this is the version without all the percussion. And this again, you put yourself in my shoes. What would you play? So I sat there thinking, okay, so Bitches Brew, it's quite a fast tempo.
Yep.
Do I go to halftime? Do I really crank it up? And this was pretty much a first take where I thought, okay, I'm going to just play. I can't even think what to do. I'm just going to throw something at this. So this is just the beginning of the track that you know. Oh, this is with Graham now. Great conga playing.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, I'm just going to
really
be fairly brutal with it. I'm going to hit hard, leave some space, because it could have been more of a dancey thing. I could have put a 4 on the floor bass drum, more disco-y, you know.
I was going to say, that demo sounded very disco, and the end result does not sound disco at all.
I thought, no, we don't want that. And if I was just listening to it there, Phil put some wonderful EBO guitar on that. So the EBO is a great little device that you fit over the string, and it vibrates the string infinitely. Okay. So you get a pure note. And then you just fret the note. Robert Fripp uses one with King Crimson a lot, and Brian Eno uses them. And if you listen to it, I've only just noticed it. Phil plays some really cool guitar, but EBO is just this line right on top of everything. So what's interesting is hearing the original version with all that space, and then what Phil puts on is genius.
It really is.
Yes.
There's a lot tucked into this one track. It's really frenetic, and it's also got a futuristic quality. I don't know, in the first demo, it sounds futuristic, but in a throwback way, in an old school way. like which made it sound like disco, but with it completed, it just has like a kind of a futuristic quality about it too. It's it's so interesting to hear how the beginning stages and how they came to be. That's really
I'm always
cool.
interested in that stuff. If people release the demos, I want to listen to them. I want to hear, because I can imagine the process.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you could play anything. It could have sounded completely different. That was
Yep.
a spur of the moment thing from me, where I just thought, I know, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It could
Yeah.
only be
Yeah, you got it right the first time. That's all it is. You mean
for
you're
once. I wish I'd done that yesterday, but never mind.
No, that's one thing too I really appreciated about Matt, is that he's not afraid to release his demos in different ways, because it really is so interesting to hear how things came to be and what they started off at, what they ended up at. It's really cool to kind of get a peek behind the curtain.
And you hear some of that later in the album. We'll get to it, but there's a couple of tracks that we saw. I guess it was the Blue Elephant was released first, but definitely it's kind of different takes on the same melody line. And
yeah, we'll get to that.
You hear that in
minute,
practice. So Leaving Hawksbill leads into Toys Hill, which is the shortest track on the album. This might be kind of an esoteric reference. Maybe this speaks to what I'm into, but hearing this, it sounds like opening credits to an Italian horror film. That's what immediately came to mind for me. It's atmospheric, it's evocative. The only criticism I have is that it sounds like a tease. I want to hear this whole song.
Yeah, it's so short.
Longer.
Yeah, to me it sounded like it was a stormy day, which I really loved. I want to listen to it on like a rainy day, but I want to listen to more of it. I don't want to listen to less than a minute of it. So
I'd love to do something with it. Phil presented it, and it was like, well, that's it. That's done. Toys Hill is actually a place near here in Kent. It's a very high viewpoint, and it's really close to where Phil was brought up, and it's about 20 minutes from here. So it's quite a famous local place. So it's really nice to get the Kent reference. So people from this area of Kent go, oh yes, I've been there.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I would have had no idea. So that's good.
No.
Now everybody knows.
Yes,
Cool.
and I didn't do anything. I thought, no, there's nothing. Sometimes you've got to know when not to play, and just keep out. That's beautiful. Leave it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a synth workout.
Yeah,
This one. Yeah,
it's incredible. I just love it. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
it really is. Did you have anything? I don't want to.
Oh no, that was it.
Automatic Foot.
Yeah. Moving on to
Yes.
Automatic Foot. As we discussed, this is the first of the sister tracks from the Blue Elephant, entitled The Blue Elephant. And I think when we did the Blue Elephant episode, that was our last episode, I think I described this as one half carnival music and one half acid trip. There's a great electric guitar work in this one, and then of the middle third of the songs, and then it goes into the Blue Elephant theme again for the last third, and it's very bassy and sinister right at the very end. It's a good track.
Yeah, when Matt sent us, something to play with, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to put this on the other album I'm working on at the same time," and we're like, "Are you sure? Do you want to use it?" He went, "No, let's see what two bands do with it." And so me and Phil had no idea what was going to come from the other album at all. So that was quite good, because we were just completely open. The opening piano part is a challenge if you want to go with the time signature, which is 4-4-3-4-4-4-4-4-3-4-4-4.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I just thought, oh, hang on, that keeps... If you listen to it one way, it sounds really smooth. But when you start digging into where the bar lines actually are, which you sometimes have to know when you're playing with it, I thought, oh no. But then they sent me, here's the demo. So this was, I think I stuck pretty much to this because it was safer.
Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah, this one could have gone wrong.
This is program drums. Pretty good. And this is me. So mine's looser.
Yeah, a little more reverb.
It's a looser. It sounds a lot warmer, but
Yeah.
this isn't like, it needs the drums obviously to move it along, but it's not like a drum centric track.
No.
So I
just
think what you
help
did,
it along.
yeah, I think what you did with moving it along, but not focusing, not making the drums front and center was really what it needed. Because there's
Yeah, I
just so
did-
much going on
call.
with it anyway. It's
Yeah, I tried playing along with the actual time signatures, and it sounded really too smart, too smug. It's like, oh no, this has got to just drive. So
yeah,
that was it's just so matte, isn't it? That piano, it's
very matte. Yeah.
It is. It's such a catchy melody and really kind of distills a lot of what he does as far as the psychedelic thing, but also sort of an earworm. And
Also kind of scary.
like a little frightening. This version sounds a lot more muscular to me. It kind of takes that bass track and uses it as a canvas, which you all sort of paint on, which you don't quite get the same way on the Blue Elephant version,
Yeah.
the album version.
I agree with that. That's a good description.
I think there was another section. Let's see what I think I prepared something. I can't remember what I prepared. Let's have a quick listen to the demo. And now this is me. Great bass playing from Phil.
So good. So
Yes.
good.
Quite often the etiquette will be, don't play over the solo. You know, there's the soloist playing, so you just support the soloist. But Phil really likes it if I kind of go for it and try to spark off ideas. But it's strange because we're not in the room together. It has to all happen separately. So sometimes I would send him some drums and then it would come back with a new bass line that kind of
Okay.
works with what I did. A lot of the musicians I worked with recently say working with some live drums on the demos is so great because it's a bit of a luxury that you can't always have. And it kind
Sure.
of steers the song or the tune in a different way.
Hmm.
So, I could really let rip on that. And I'm listening to his demo, very offbeat drums, very angular. So I wanted to keep that, but keep it really loose and swinging as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, very much enjoyed playing that one.
It sounds like you're just complimenting each other, but you're both very much doing your own thing, which just makes it so interesting to listen to.
I think it helps that we've played together for so long.
Sure.
It's been, what's it been now? Nearly 25 years. So I kind of know what's coming and he knows what's coming. So we second guess each other telepathically. And sometimes live it is quite something where we both hit the same figure and look at each other. What did you just played that together and never done this before? It's really special.
That's really cool.
Phil is actually partly family member of mine as well, unexpectedly.
Oh, yeah?
My partner has an extended family, and I used to see them every Christmas and talk to the granddad about music, and he'd always say, "Oh, my son plays music." Oh yeah, and everyone says that to me, you know, music teacher, drummer. Oh, my son plays music. Really? Oh, good. I am actually really pleased, but I do hear a lot. I used to play guitar. So anyway, I listened to some of it and it was really good. And then, you know, over the years, kept going, and I was doing these gigs with Phil. And then one Christmas I went there and said to the guy, "Oh, I'm just working with this great new bass player. It's so exciting." I don't know why I said it to him, because it's a bit specialised to talk to someone's granddad about that. And he said, "Oh, what's his name?" I said, "Oh, Phil." And he said, "Oh, my son's name's Phil."
Oh my gosh.
I said, "Oh, really?" And we carried on chatting. And then he just said, "What's his other name?" I said, "Scrag." He said, "Yeah, that's my name."
That's so crazy.
What are the
The whole
odds?
room just stopped. You're
That's
talking about
so
Phil.
crazy.
But yeah, I'm working with Phil. So, I mean, the odds on that are so
Right.
extraordinarily high.
Minuscule.
That is
Um,
so crazy. I love stories like that. They give you goosebumps. Like, whoa.
It does. It really does. I rang Phil and said, I've been having Christmas Eve with your dad for the last 5-6 years. He, what? What do you mean? No, I've been with your dad.
That is so funny.
So yeah, so we have a bond, and working with him musically is just a dream, and combining it with Matt, so I feel very, very lucky.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's really
we're lucky to
crazy.
hear it. You're going to get sick of this question, but we're going to keep asking it. The song title on this one,
Oh.
Automatic Foot.
Yeah.
Especially this one, yeah.
I did ask Phil yesterday, and he said, I don't know. I think he can't remember. He started to say something garbled about it and then said, I don't know. I just made it up. So there's no deep meaning on that one. Such
Word
a great name.
association.
I know it's actually part of the sewing machine. And I said, is it anything to do with the sewing machine? He said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's like, okay, it's not that. But he just came up with that name, and it had to be. It's such a great name.
No deeper meaning, and the one that we're like, there's got to be meaning behind this. No,
Nothing on that one.
That's so funny. Do we have anything else on Automatic Foot?
Just that it's a great song. It's honestly one of my favorite on the albums. The Blue Elephant is one of my favorite albums, and it's just so cool to hear this kind of expansion on it.
It was also interesting because I know Phil mentioned that these both came out at the same time, but I don't think he ever got into details about how it was used on this album. And it's interesting to know that Matt knew that he was going to be using it on something else, but also wanted to have it on this. It wasn't just a demo that he was working on. It was kind of like he already had an intention for it.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous because I really liked what we did. And I thought, what if the other album will take priority and we're not allowed to use it? But Matt said, it's fine, I can do what I like with it. So,
Acid Jazz isn't going to tell me what to do with my music.
No, we get to do what we like. So, yeah.
All right.
So, Milkbone, the title track. I think I love this one so much. This one always reminds me, it has that real 70s throwback vibe. And now more recently listening to KPM with Matt's coming album, it gives me Alan Hawkshaw vibes because it's got that like 70s cop show kind of womp womp kind of feel. And there's a shift in mood about a minute 15 in. It gets a little melancholy. Yeah. And then the drums are really highlighted around the 2-minute mark, some spacey sounding synth in the background. And then it gets more ominous with about 40 seconds left and circles back to that opening 70s cop show feel. So this is just, there's so much happening in this one and it's really upbeat and I love it.
Oh, it's so interesting to hear you say that because I spoke to Phil yesterday and I said, what was your vibe? He said, Matt said it has to be a 70s cop show vibe.
Shut up!
Seriously.
That's
written it
so
in my notes
cool.
here.
Particularly very rewarding because we do this for every episode, but we always say this is what I think, but we have no way of knowing if that's really true or not. But to hear live confirmation that that's what you were going for, that made
exactly
my year. That's amazing.
Oh, you nailed it.
Awesome.
I don't think I was given that when I recorded it. I don't remember getting any guidance on that one. So I just played what I thought worked. Matt provided the ambient synth on that one as well.
I was just going to ask how this became the title track.
I think the sound of it was what we were after, particularly.
Okay.
We just thought this has to be the track that the album stands on. So if you were to listen to one song, this might give you a flavour of our feel. So
Sure.
yeah, that's the only reason it was the title track. We just really loved it as well.
Just felt emblematic.
And it certainly does have that kind of that 70s, mid-70s synth thing, and it's
Oh yeah.
I really just love the sound of it. I play it all the time. You
It's
know,
so
I
good.
should be playing other people's music in my head. And I'm walking along and I think, oh, go on then, let's listen to it. Yeah, oh, I really like this. Because I'm far enough removed now to just enjoy it. And
Yeah.
I'm not hearing all the little things that we didn't do. I'm just thinking, this is great. You know, sometimes I listen back to an album and think, oh, no. Why did we do that? But this one, it feels really complete.
That's
So
good. I'm glad that you're able to do that.
it was a really good creative environment. They were so positive, Matt and Phil. You know, when I sent them the drum recordings, you know, I had such great messages back. And wow, this is really great. You know, and it that spurred me on to do more. And
Yeah.
okay, good. I think I'm onto something here. It's so important that the way you react to each other creatively. Now, I
Yeah.
know some producers, they like to sow discord. I've seen it in the studio and I really hate it. It's like, hey, you're not doing very well today. You need to really bring it. You know, you need to bring your game and all this crap. And I don't respond well to that. I just think, no, don't do that. I've had
Yeah.
someone do it to me and I thought, no, don't try that on me. It's a cheap shot. Trying
Yeah.
to wind me up so I play really hard.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen people broken by it. You know, I mean, Steely Dan are famous for shredding musicians, and you know, the world's greatest musicians leave the studio in tears.
Oh, wow.
When they were doing the Asia album, you know, you read the greatest players in the world are walking out in tears, saying, "I can't play anymore." So this is why it's nice working with Phil and Matt, because there's none of that. It's just
Yeah.
support. I really like what you did here. Or if they didn't like it, you know, sometimes it's like, I like that, but could you try this? How about this? And that happens all over the place. And we did it all to each other. Like, I think why don't we change that completely? And sometimes I would say, I'm not going to play any drums on that bit. Oh, okay. You sure? No, I don't. So anyway,
That's
I
really good.
digress.
I was just going to say, it is interesting, though, how Matt does have that need for control, but that's not at all present on this album. It's a true collaboration.
Yeah.
I think he
That's
liked
true,
the fact that it wasn't his name. He was really
Okay.
adamant that this was not a Matt Berry album. This needed to be Phil's album primarily, and it is Phil's album. Phil wrote 90% of it,
Huh.
and Matt was just the catalyst. He was great. You know, he would encourage us. He would come up with the right thing at the right time to move it along. You know, and sometimes you'd have a month where nothing happens, and then Matt would message us going, "Why don't we do this?" And he's like, yeah, let's do that. And then the whole thing gets going again. So, yeah, he really didn't want his name to be... He was really nervous about the promotion because we wanted to use his name because of who he is. You know, it would be crazy
Sure.
not to use his name. But he was really adamant about, you keep it small. You guys first, and then I'm here. And I think that worked really well because then he's free to take a back seat a bit more and let Phil produce it. And I think he enjoyed that. I hope he did anyway. He's doing another one with us, so maybe he did.
Seems like it
That's a
worked
good
out
sign.
okay. Yeah, we were wondering about that too, why he didn't do, I think he tweeted about it maybe once and that was it. So we're like, he's
He
not
said
doing
it's
any
your thing.
promotion.
You do what you want. It's not
We
my thing.
we assumed that was kind of what it was, that he didn't want to like steal the thunder and make it his thing. He wanted it to be collaborative.
Yeah, people want him to be the person to speak to. And he said, I don't want to be the person because it's Phil. Phil wrote it all.
Mhm.
So, but of course, interviewers in the media don't want to speak to Phil as much as
Well,
Matt.
you're the one who ended up with the pool quotes.
Yeah, you talked to, what was it, Prognizing? I don't remember.
Yeah, I had
Louder.
a chat with Sid Smith, their reviewer there, and they were really positive. You know, I think both Phil and I had a real moment of panic. We'd finished the album, and we messaged each other saying, "Is this utterly stupid? Is this? Have we completely lost our heads? This is rubbish." And I said, "Phil, no, I don't think it is." And I played it and thought, "Oh yeah, I think maybe it is. Oh no, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to look really ridiculous." And then it went out to Prague, and then they just loved it. And then this wave of affection came back, and we could both listen to it again. And actually, no, it is okay. We got into their end of year top 20s, which was so nice because
That's
we
really
were
cool.
with some big bands,
Well deserved.
Yeah.
which was so, it's a dream come true. Because I buy that magazine, and to be actually interviewed and quoted in it, it's like, oh my God,
That's awesome.
I'm too old for this sort of stuff to happen to me now. But it is. So
Yeah. Tara, did you have anything else to add about this track?
I just love this track. It's so funky and it's just very 70s. It's my favorite one on the album, I think. I don't think I have much to add. I do have a question though.
yeah,
A little bit of an aside, just because we're, talking about Milkbone, and that's going to be the title of the next one, I'm sure. You're recording the next album in the same way that the first one was recorded.
Yeah.
If you could, if schedules weren't a thing and you could record it all together, would you, or do you think that this is just like the perfect way to actually record these albums?
I do really like recording this way now, and Matt's schedule is really crazy.
Difficult.
Because we were going to do some stuff in the studio beginning of this year, I think, and then no, he's actually gone for 6 months. Then he's in Australia, and then that's why we can't tour as Maypoles, because it nearly happened this year. There was at Christmas there was talk, maybe we'll do it again, and it's not that no one wants to, it's just
No time.
so much filming.
This other stupid gig that keeps them away from music.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
we're
all
fond of that one too.
We're
He
fine with
always
that
says
too.
he'd rather do the music. But of course, music doesn't pay the bills. We do it creatively. But I can see why. But he's in such great stuff. He's not like he's summoning some terrible soap opera, is it? He's...
No, we're all big fans of everything most of the things he's been in.
Most of the
Yeah,
things
yeah.
he's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff. And,
Yeah.
but that's why I think this is a good approach. There are 3 pieces of music for this new album that Phil and I recorded about 6 months ago, where we just went into my studio and jammed, and it's pretty good. So we might use some of that. But I really like recording this way. Now I think I'm getting a good sound. I enjoy the freedom. I can potter around on my own, no pressure,
Yeah.
multiple takes, and sometimes I get really avant-garde and I dismantle the drums and I start hitting them with hammers or whatever. I was dropping cymbals into water, and so this is interesting. I might use this sound somewhere.
I
in the
love
studio.
that.
No way.
Yeah. No, that's really
£1,000
cool.
a day.
Yeah.
No.
That's
really cool.
Interesting and maybe that's exactly what this album needs. It needs everybody to be creative separately and to add things that way. I mean, not all albums are going to be this way, but that's what Milkbone is. So that's really
Yes, I think we'll do it again.
So we've gotten to the last track on side 1, which is 2 sequences. This is the other song that's kind of a sister version of what's on the Blue Elephant. This is I thought a more frantic version of Safe Passage. And similarly to Automatic Foot, it kind of uses that existing melody line, and I'm not sure which came first, but it uses that melody line as a playground to really build on a template for these kind of wild instrumentals, whirling synths. This one sounded like the most improvised song on the album to my ears.
Yeah, 2 sequences was a very interesting origin, where Phil and Matt sent each other some music totally randomly, and it just happened to be at the same tempo in the same key, and Phil just put the 2 together. It's completely different tracks. They weren't meant to
Wow.
go together, and he just lined them up, and that's what you hear, and that's
Oh.
why it's called 2 sequences.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
And it's pretty frantic. Shall I play you a little bit of my demo that I got sent? So
Yes, please.
Yes.
Please do.
Have a listen. So that's what I was sent. And I thought, oh no, that's really hard.
I love that's your first reaction to every track they send you. Oh no, that's really hard.
I've really got to do something good here. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of an alternate version that I didn't send them. So this is my first attempt at it. So I still did this weird drum pattern that he had on his demo. So that was my first attempt, and that middle section with the kind of Latin drum thing, I spent a full day on that. It was really challenging to play to a recording standard. It's kind of a jazzy thing that John Coltrane and Love Supreme, Elvin Jones, the drummer, would play that pattern. So it's quite famous amongst drummers as a Latin pattern. And I've always known it. And then suddenly I had to play it. And I thought, oh no, that's really hard. So I spent a day working. I just remember getting up and down and up and down, up and down. But in the end, we decided to scrap that, which I was almost pleased about after I'd spent ages getting it right. So this is what happened in the end. That is a very odd timing of that melody. And
It is.
so in the end, I played through it and just tried to keep in with it and let the thing flow. So that was a real interesting one to play. I spent a good day on that one. But in the end, I really enjoyed what I put together. And I think it's come out all right.
Yeah, the jumps kind of weave in and out of it. It's cool. My notes were just that I like the use of the melody better on this than I do on Safe Passage, because the way it landed, now that I know that Phil just like layered them on top of each other, is that it kind of breaks the song up into sections. So the first section is really synth heavy, and then it gets much jazzier with the horns in the second. And then the end is kind of almost a tantric repeating quality. And then it just fades out, gets very dreamy towards the end. So I like the breakup of it. And I like the way the drums kind of weave in and out of it. It works. Just layering them on top is crazy, but it works.
Yeah.
It works.
I mean, all these pieces had to have a story and multiple sections and atmospheres contained within, and it's really interesting. You have to really go with the feelings, the gut feeling about what are these notes making me feel like, and it really is so much fun to put something together, because when you play a song, you got your verse and chorus, and then you do the verse again, and then you figure out your parts and you stick to them. But this is much more fluid, and you just catch certain sections, and that was a good one.
Yeah, love it.
I kind of blew my mind that they both just sent each other
Yeah.
like something that just worked perfectly.
Let's just layer them. Okay, that works. So speaking of
Yeah.
songs that like tell a story and give a mood, I don't know if this is the story that it's meant to portray, but Bleak Strategy, to me, it's like two songs in one. I hear the drums are very punchy and energetic, but the music is sort of droning and almost sounds grumpy to me. There's some intermittent brightness, and then it ultimately fades out softly. But this song overall, it makes me picture somebody having a really bad day, just walking down the street, hands in their pockets, a rain cloud following them, but like everybody around them is going along with their normal day, not having a bad day, not knowing what this poor dude's going through. But I don't know, that's just what it makes me think of. That's like the picture it paints in my head. No idea if that makes any sense to anybody except me.
Interesting view, yeah. Let me have a listen. Hang on. I'm just thinking,
Apparently it's just me.
does it really sound like that? Hang on. It's a bit menacing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, interestingly, we called that initially Phil and Percy after Phil Collins and Percy Jones.
Okay.
Oh.
Phil's fretless bass playing is just extraordinary on that. He's hitting harmonics and it's got depth and I just thought it's just. So there's a band from the 70s that I don't know, you may not know them because they're not that well known, but called Brand X. It was a band that Phil Collins formed to play fusion music outside of Genesis. So they formed in about 75, 76. And the bass player, Percy Jones, plays fretless bass like that. And Phil and I have always just loved his playing. And so I was just trying to channel the lightness of Phil Collins and the creativity of him. I mean, it's in my DNA, his playing from the 70s.
Sure.
80s, not so much, because it all became something else, and it was great for him. He made a lot of money. But musically, it kind of changed. So yeah, I wanted to give it that Phil Collins thing, and Phil's bass playing on that is quite something. I'll tell you what's interesting is it's called Bleak Strategy, and it's a bit of a wordplay on a set of cards by Brian Eno called Oblique Strategies. I don't know if you've heard of
Okay.
I had to have a set. And what it is, lots of music, Bowie used these with Eno when he was working on Low and Heroes. You pick a card when you're stuck in the studio or when you're writing. So everyone's arguing, no one can decide what to do. You randomly pick a card and there's an instruction. First card I pick, abandon normal instruments.
Oh. Okay.
It's a helpful when you're a drummer.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right, we get rid of that. I'm going to get a dustbin in
Yeah.
hammers. So he used these with Bowie and with U2, and me and Phil have always been a fan of that approach. There's some great instructions. Yeah, let's see another one. What to increase, what to reduce. Okay. Tidy up. Give way to your worst impulse.
Oh,
I love that.
that's a good one.
Yeah,
These are so creative, aren't they?
Yeah.
Don't be frightened of cliches.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it just completely unblocking something? The most important thing is the thing most easily forgotten. Some of them you think, I don't know about that one.
Sounds like a fortune cookie.
Yes.
This is my favourite. Do the washing up.
Literally and figuratively.
I've used that one in the studio. I've used it. It's like, right, I'm going to do the washing up. I'm gone.
What does it look like to do the washing up in the studio? What does that mean to you?
Well, you just wash up your cups and everything, and
Just literally get out.
and then while you're doing the washing up, you think, yeah, I know.
Oh, so literally doing
literally
dishes.
do the washing up. It's such a genius idea.
Yeah.
Get
go
out.
take- Yeah. Take a break. Go think of something. Do a manual menial task, and
Yeah.
Right. Focus on something sensory.
yeah.
So these are great. You can still buy a few of these sets now, but yeah, we didn't use them on the track. But we thought we would quote it, or Phil did.
I was very curious about the name for this one, so that is an excellent answer.
I think I might have a guide track here. Let's see. There we go. Let's see what I was given. No fretless bass. So we've got Matt's sequence. This was Matt's idea. So I sit there thinking, okay, I've got to do something. So I didn't have many goes at this. This is one of the first takes. And then Phil added the fretless bass afterwards, after me.
Wow,
So
that's
we,
huge departure from where it started to where it ended up. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
so cool to hear that evolution.
Yeah.
It's on another day we'd have all played something different. from that sequence part that Matt sent us, but that's what we just said. Something Percy Jones and Phil Collins would play. Okay, I know. And it's only a feeling because you don't actually end up copying them. There's no phrase that they actually ever played. But it's just a mindset of what's the kind of thing they might have done.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough to set you thinking and take you somewhere because you've got infinite choice, haven't you? Well, kind of. You've got a tempo, but really you could play a lot of things over that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I didn't get at all what Jesse got, but to me, this track sounds really paranoid. It's like,
Yeah.
which makes the title totally fit. But it's got that kind of like persistent ticking rhythm and synth in the background. And it just sounds like racing thoughts to me. I don't know if that was the brief, but that's what I got.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's really interesting to hear what you guys think because, I find it hard to separate out of the actual playing of it. So to hear what you hear is like, oh yeah, it does sound like that. Yeah.
So the next track is Soft Weed. I might be completely off base, but at times during the track, it almost sounds like you're hitting something hollow. Are you using just a regular drum kit or were you kind of using something crazy?
It could be something Graham Mann is playing.
Okay. Specifically around the 1 minute mark, it just sounds a little hollow.
He is credited with percussion on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll start with the demo and you'll hear what I got. Graham with a triangle again.
Is that what that is?
I know now Graham went to Phil's house with a big box of stuff.
Okay.
This was a completely improvised percussion thing where he literally was just picking stuff up and reacting to the music. And it's complete by chance. And there are some sounds where I think he drops something and I think you can hear him speak at one stage.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely
I
Back
noted
in
that.
tune, I think he says, or something like that.
Okay.
So there are some strange noises here. So this is still without me, just Graham. That's a cabassa. So, that's a percussion instrument called a cabassa, and he's running his fingers down it.
Okay.
And it's amazing. When you put a lot of reverb on something, it just suddenly sounds lovely. And it's just him scraping an instrument randomly. It's not like a rhythmic part because the song's so dreamy.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
exactly what I said about it. I said it's so dreamy and mellow. It's another great rainy day tune. What now I think was what I was hearing. I said that there sounds like an old fashioned alarm clock about
There is, yeah.
127. Is that what it is? It is an alarm clock?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
And he
thinking
just
maybe it was the
picked it
triangle.
out of his bag and
Oh.
set it
Oh
off.
my God.
Oh, that's so
That's
cool.
funny.
And I said this one sounds like a dreamscape to me, and then I mentioned the male voice around 252, but I couldn't hear what it's saying, so we should credit Graham with vocals on this one as well.
Yeah.
And I
That's
said,
definitely Graham.
I said this track wouldn't be out of place at all. I don't think on Music for Insomniacs. It just really sounds so dreamlike without the jump scares. So I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, a song like this is, or a piece like this is, for me, the most challenging because I'm not needed, but I want to contribute.
Mhm.
So what can I contribute and not spoil it and still provide something? So I think I've got a first take here of something that I didn't think worked. So you can hear what I did first time, and it's not quite as good as what we ended up with. Slightly too busy, and I was just trying to find a line. So then in the end, I just thought I've got to bring it back more. Vibra slap then. Alarm clock. So I just had to breathe slowly,
Yeah.
try to
That was
let.
definitely the way to go.
Yeah. The first
Yeah.
take sounded like almost like a jam session, like a jazz jam session. Where
Yeah,
everybody's kind of just doing their thing. But yeah, I like the way it ended up better for sure.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? That's the thing about you. You start somewhere, and then you've got to use your taste. Hopefully,
Yeah. I'm like, that's not right.
Just
Let's try and
pull
fix
out
it.
any good bits and leave the not so good bits. And
Yeah.
that's a real challenge. I find that it's much easier to play a groove, but
Yeah.
that would sound ridiculous.
Right.
It can't have a groove. It's got to float.
Yeah.
So yeah, Graham did some good work on that. I think he creates a whole little story of noises and sound effects, and I don't know what any of it means. He just jammed it,
Yeah.
and Phil just said, "Yep, that's going on as it is. We're not going to edit it. There it is."
Yeah, I love that.
It is a beautifully evocative track. And I don't know to what degree Matt was involved on this particular one, but something that came to mind, Matt said a couple of years back, I want to say it was the Word in Your Ear interview that he did a little after Blue Elephant was released, but he started off talking about how he fell in love with psychedelic sounds and he called them wet sounds. He said he always loved these wet sounds. I think he might have said something like it sounds like they were thrown in the water. And I definitely hear that here. It's got that echoing, ambient, atmospheric, like underwater feel.
Yeah, it's like you're drifting through the swamp, listening to all the creatures around, which is Graham making these things.
So this leads into Redshift, and I warned that I was going to use the term juxtaposition a lot. And this is definitely a juxtaposition. Drums are front and center, so I'd love to hear about that. The synths break in around 52 seconds, and it sounds like this is just everyone having fun, kind of showing off what they can do. It's got more of those retro funk vibes, more of those KPM vibes to my ears. And the end, or around the end, around 250, you hear these, I think they're called space synth sounds. I always think of them as synth squiggles, but Matt would kill me for saying that. They remind me of rockets taking off. So it's just like a fun, virtuosic, just kind of a show off track, but in the best possible way.
That's so funny because I said this like the same thing, that it's got that 70s funky sound, but this one, like, the drums are the star of the show for sure, and that there's just so much happening that it sounds chaotic, but like at the same time that definitely sounds like it was the intention of the track. Like what you said, like everybody's having fun with it, doing their thing.
Yeah, I think I kind of accidentally, on purpose, but accidentally did 2 drum solos, not on purpose really. So there was a section where it drops, and I thought, oh, that'd be it, because I was playing it live as one take, and I thought, oh, yeah, I think I need to do something here. And then the next bit I'd forgotten is a definite solo section with some stops. And I was like, oh no, I've just done it. I'll do another one, right? And Matt and Phil liked it, and it's like, okay, well, I've done 2 solos. It's far too much. It's silly. I shouldn't do 2 solos. I should do 1. But we thought, okay, and this was a real interest. Oh yeah, the original title of this was Matt's. It's a slightly obscene title.
Shocking.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
He called it
tell.
very English, very British. He called it Arse Hunter.
Oh my god.
So for all my files, I looked it up. I'm thinking, where is this song? Oh God, it's Arse Hunter, of course.
What does that even mean?
Because I don't know. It just sounds slightly rude.
It does.
He's had some funny ideas. He had a set of names for the band, and I really can't read some of them out for legal reasons.
Oh.
There was 10 names, and I think I remember falling on the floor laughing. They were so hilarious. They were so outrageous that it's like, oh, you can't say that. You can't even send that as a message. That I'm going to have to delete this message. We can't have it. But
you can't do this to us.
Yeah,
I know. I really can't share it. So yeah, one of the nicer names. He wants to call it the album and the band Cream Cheese.
Okay.
We said no. One-Eyed Mountain was another one that nearly got used. Squelch was a name that
Wow.
we didn't.
Oh,
Squelch.
Because it is kind of a squelchy album, isn't it?
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
It's got a squelchy
Milkbone
feel.
too, squelch.
Maybe I might see if I can persuade them. But the other names could actually cause a kind of international incident. I can't say them. I just looked them back up. I went back through my WhatsApp thinking there was some funny. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. It's so funny. But anyway, so yeah, we had a kind of Herbie Hancock Headhunters feel for this. That was the approach, kind of early to mid 70s vibe where we can all play out a bit. Because there's so many tracks that are really measured and beautiful, and it's like, come on, let's really step up and hit this one hard. So we wanted to have this kind of performance feel. So I did it as a whole take, which is insane because this is far too difficult to do as a whole take. So let me play you a little bit. Here's the demo that I got. So you can hear a Herbie Hancock thing here on this wah-wah. Imagine my joy getting this, thinking, oh, yes. Yes, please.
I would have had a nervous
some of that.
breakdown.
So that's the thing that I actually tracked to. Here's an alternate take then. So as I said, I do 2 ridiculous drum solos. I don't do drum solos. It's not in my repertoire, really. I'm a kind of groovy sort of player, not a show-offy solo-y. But I thought, okay, I need to step up here and do something. So this is my first take. Let's see what comes out. So much more space on that one, but it's holding the music back a little bit.
I kind of love that though.
Yeah, I quite like it actually, but... And now another solo opportunity comes up. So that was my first take through, thinking,
I really love that.
that's maybe I thought maybe I could send them that, but I should have another pass at it, and see what comes out. So this is what I ended up with. Slightly better EQ now. Oh yeah, you'll hear one thing here where I was really pleased with the take, and I accidentally hit a cymbal, and it really annoyed the hell out of me, and I could not. I tried again, thinking, no, I'll do it again. I never got it as good, so it's gone in. You'll hear me accidentally hit a cymbal. So that's what we ended up with. I quite like the first one actually now, but never mind. We'll start with the second one. So yeah, that was the chance for me to have a play because Phil beautifully solos throughout. He takes all the main lead lines. He plays all the guitar as well. Yeah, Matt does mostly synth and sequences and things, and so I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a play here.
Yep.
So that was Redshift.
I didn't hear the wayward symbol. It
Oh, didn't
sounded
you?
totally fine.
I
to me.
didn't.
I never would have pegged it as a mistake. I heard it once he pointed it out, but it
Yeah,
It didn't
It
sound like a
works.
mistake. Yeah.
not
it
at all.
sounded
sticks flailing around, and I hit it, and I thought, oh, come on, I'm not
good.
in the middle of this. And I thought, oh, maybe people will think I did it on purpose.
I
So-
would never have noticed that was a mistake. But there you
All
go.
the other
There's
drummers
that
doing-
wonkiness
I
that
heard
you
that.
wanted. Yeah,
We
obviously.
were talking about keeping in the wonkiness. So
Yeah.
there's the
Yes.
wonkiness.
A drum
There it
machine would
is.
not have done that.
It's a
And
real
it wouldn't have been as
person.
good.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. For Cecilia, we have a quote.
So Cecilia obviously is a longtime collaborator of Matt Berry and the Maypoles, and she spoke to Prog Magazine about this track. The article was titled The Perfect 10, and it was released on December 31st, 2021. And it goes on to say, the 11-track self-titled debut album even starts with a song called Canterbury. And later on side 2, they reunite with vocalist / multi-instrumentalist Cecilia Phage for a track named Cecilia. Phage reveals to Prog, I recorded a kind of live mellotron for Matt and Phil, me singing every note in the scale, which they then turned into a synthesized me. And then they named the track after me. That is so cool.
It is so
What an
cool.
honor.
Yeah.
It's so unique, isn't it? We have all those notes of her beautiful voice, and we can construct anything, and it's just beautiful. It's it's such a start to the song, isn't it?
It
And
is.
then it goes into
Yes.
something really crazy.
It
Which really
does.
surprised me.
Oh my gosh.
I laughed out loud when Phil sent me the demo. I was listening to it, really thinking, this is beautiful. I don't know what. Oh my God, what's just happened?
Yeah.
And
So I'm sorry.
that's Phil's mind. That's the sound of Phil's brain.
That's so funny. I called that. I said Celia Phage's synthesized vocals have a sort of spiritual, ghostly quality. And then it shifts around the 2-minute 10 mark to a part that I call the vintage video game. So this music reminds me of the original Super Mario Brothers, where they're in the underground world with the Tuttles. And it's like super ominous sounding. And then right after that, it goes back into like a mellow jazz club. And then it gets softer and softer. And then it, boom, jolts you right back into the sewers of Super Mario Brothers. And it's just like a mashup of so many different things, but it's so unique and cool.
It is, isn't it? There's nothing else that I know of that sounds like that. You can't say, oh yeah, that sounds a bit like a Soft Machine track from 1970. No, it doesn't. It just sounds completely unique.
I couldn't place it, and then when you said the Super Mario, I was like, oh yeah.
Right?
I think I've got a little bit of the demo of that one. It's right. Let's see what we got. I can't believe what he programmed there. That sounds amazing. I thought, wow, he's really spent some time on that. I think at one stage he may have even considered using it. I may be wrong, so forgive me if I am, but I think Matt said, no, we've got to have real drums. We can't use that. And he clearly had spent a week programming that because it sounds pretty amazing. So I got that and thought, okay, I need to do something. So this is what I did. So that was me really throwing my hands at it, thinking, well, I can't copy what Phil did because that would take me a year to learn it. So I know kind of what he's hearing, so I'm going to take it a bit further and make it even more crazy. And I was influenced by a Phil Collins drum part from a Genesis song called Carpet Crawlers. So if you were to listen to what Phil Collins plays on that, you might recognise bits of what I did. But this goes a lot crazier. So yeah, amazing. By the way, we're also inspired by 10cc, I'm Not in Love, with the way that they stack those vocals on that song.
Okay.
And it's the same idea, really. They had it in 1975. It's incredible how they did it then, multi-track.
Now that you say that, I can totally hear it.
Yeah, that was a big influence on that. So we've got the Mellotron influence from the progressive things like Genesis, and then 10cc to get that vocal. So
interesting. Yeah, I needed crazier drums.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I just really, I hope we never play it live because I have no idea what I did. I just remember thinking, right, I'm really going to go for something and I don't know what it is. And that was fun.
That's funny.
Quite pleased now I listened back and thought, wow, that doesn't sound like me.
Wow, that drummer's awesome.
Yeah, this guy. So I'll probably never be able to play it again, but that's great. It's on tape, so... tape. I'm so old-fashioned, aren't I? It's on noughts and ones.
Courtney, do you have anything for this one?
Just that it is a study in contrasts, kind of like you said, Jesse, but it feels like a coherent whole. It really, really comes together. It's got that ethereal quality of Cecilia's vocals, which I think comes through on everything she sings on, that distorted guitar, and then I think the most straightforward jazz on the album at around the 2-minute 26-second mark. So it's just these shifts, like I said, juxtaposition again, there it is again, but it just flows. It's a really cool track.
All right.
We are nearing the end of the album. The last track on the vinyl LP, although not on the CD and digital versions, Velvet Black. So this song starts with this beating heart sound, then adds this quiet hush percussion. It's got a trombone, Graham Mann's trombone weaving through, which gives it a really mournful quality. Washes of synths around the 2-minute mark. It's just, it fits the title. It's velvety, smooth, rich. It's got a hypnotic, meditative quality to it. And I want to ask, I thought I heard kind of a wailing vocal. This is on the instrumental version, but I thought I heard a vocal around 1 minute, 15 seconds. It might have been a synth, but I had to ask what that was, because it definitely sounded like a woman, almost a Great Gig in the Sky kind of wail.
Oh, wow. I don't think there are any vocals on it at all.
I thought it might be a trombone, but like part of like a trombone note, like a held note.
Sure, could be it.
Yeah, see if I can find it and identify it. God, never noticed. I'll have to ask Phil. That sounds like a female vocal.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Nice one.
Yeah.
It might
I hear
be
it now
Harriet,
too.
because he may have taken that, because this song me and Phil did actually a couple of years before with the vocal from Harriet, and we just did it for fun, just a track, and I really loved it. And when we thought about putting it on the album, Matt said we really should keep it entirely instrumental, and we thought, yeah, you're right, actually we should. So Matt had the idea of replacing the vocal with a trombone.
Okay.
That could have been a
wayward note.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Harriet.
I thought the vocal version was done after. I didn't realize that was the original track.
Yeah,
Very interesting. Okay.
And we used the original rhythm track at first. And I just thought, I remember calling Phil saying, I'm playing something quite proggy on this. And it's quite pompous, and it works really well with the vocal track, but I think we both agreed we wanted it to be the last track on the album. And I said, we've done all the fireworks. We don't need one more drum fill. We don't need one more anything. We just need to let the album go. And so I re-recorded my part with brushes, more of a jazzy.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You hear
And
that?
Phil overdubbed the heartbeat.
Right,
which is
yeah.
that was with my bass drum, and
Okay.
he's replaced the bass drum with a Roland bass drum sound.
But
So it's got sub bass.
I love that it comes full circle though with the heartbeat, because that's the same as how Canterbury started. So
And
it
it
brings
wasn't
the
meant to be.
entire album full circle. But that worked so well, even if it was an
Yeah.
accident. Like I never
Yeah,
would
we
have
totally
been
meant
like,
that.
whoa, that's genius. They
Yeah, yeah.
totally like wound up the album at like the way it started. How could they have done that? Like, yeah, it's I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
was the plan all along, actually, to book it with the. No, I just
Meticulously mapped out.
Yeah, obviously.
the song was obviously done 2 years earlier, and
Okay.
then we just gave it that slightly more mellow feel, which I really like. I'm really glad we did it. So
Yeah.
when we did the CD release, we thought, well, it'd be nice to use that track with Harriet singing, because it's a beautiful vocal.
Yeah.
And so probably against Matt's advice, we stuck it on the CD, and I'm glad we did, because it kind of breaks up the, it shouldn't be there.
Well, if you
really.
listen to Matt's advice, you wouldn't have CDs anyway. So
No,
That is very true.
he really did not want to do a CD run.
Right.
And we had to say, look, he wanted it to be very, very rare, and the 200 run was his idea, and it was a great idea. It was really good. So we'd love to press some more vinyl, really, but it's so expensive to do.
Yeah.
So we'd have to raise £1,000 and then hope we sell them. So I'm glad the extra track doesn't go on the album, because it kind of spoils. I don't like extra tracks on CDs really myself. I've got a few albums that I know really well. I've got Heroes by Bowie, and I've got a CD version, and it's got all the demos at the end, which is really interesting, but it feels like the album ends and then there's all these other tracks.
It should be a second disc.
I
But
think
this one though is just, I mean, it's crazy how different the two of them sound, and I don't know if it changes my perspective now, knowing that the one with the vocals was the first one. The album version it's just very mellow, and but the Harriet's version with her vocals, as soon as her vocals kick in, every time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And, with the album version being very dreamlike and atmospheric, like I think this is the most atmospheric song on the album, but the vocal version is so powerful, and it just adds like so much life to it. Even though I think both versions are amazing in their own right, her version is just. I told Phil when we talked to him, and I still maintain that to me this one sounds like a movie score, and specifically I see opening credits for like a James Bond movie, just because.
Oh yes, please. Yes, come on.
No.
Let's make that
I'll put that
happen.
in the universe for you. But
Yes.
yeah, it's really great.
Oh yeah, I'm really pleased with it actually, and it's a perfect ending to the album. It just feels that's the perfect length of album as well. I think I don't know, was it 38 minutes or 40 minutes? I mean, I don't like overly long albums, because I don't care how good they are. By the end of it, you've just had enough. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So,
Although I am fond of the occasional double album. It is 49 minutes and 28 seconds with the vocal version.
Oh, with the yes, yeah.
With the vocal, yeah. So more like probably 42, 43 without.
Hopefully, at 40 odd minutes, sometimes you just think, oh, I'll just play that again. But when it's 60 minutes, you think, I'm glad that stopped. I need to listen to something else.
Yeah, if it gets too long, sometimes it makes your ears feel like they're going to start to bleed, and then you're like, I need a break. But this one really is. This one leaves you wanting more, which is really great, and that's hard to get, I think, from an instrumental album. But I want more.
Looking at Spotify stats, we're back to our conversation about cherry picking songs. The plays on Velvet Black are a quarter of what the first tracks are.
Which is crazy to me.
Even the vocal version?
I'm not sure about that one. I'll have to check with Phil. But yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing sometimes on albums where you sequence it and you put the beautiful track to finish and no one gets there.
Yeah, there's no excuse on this one either.
Clicked away. It's like,
Not too long.
You can't put it first. It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to just trust that some people will listen.
Absolutely.
The people who get it will get it.
Yeah, that wraps up
Cool.
our breakdown of Milkbone. So that was awesome. I don't think we could have done that nearly as succinctly without your input, James. So thank you
Gonna
so
edit
much.
that down a bit.
So we wanted to ask you about your more current projects, like the Deep State, which is super interesting project. I have your Broken Pieces album that came out.
Brilliant.
So Deep State is comprised of yourself and Ralph Cardle. I listened to Misinformation Highway Part 1 and 2, and it's really cool. It's very proggy and experimental. And even though it's all instrumental, this is one, like you were talking about before, that it really does tell a story, especially when you look at the track listings. You're like, okay, yeah, I see where this is going. The intensity of it, when it gets darker and darker, culminating with the actual apocalypse. And if I understood the timeline of when this was released, was the Zombie Apocalypse concept album after this one?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Okay, so The Dead Are Rising was the title of that one. And that one's a full instrumental, apart from breaking news briefs that come through about the events of unfolding of an actual zombie apocalypse. And there's also a really impressive graphic novel that goes with it, which is amazing. But both of those albums, Misinformation Highway and The Dead Are Rising, seem to be really tied to current political climate and COVID. And then your new album is Broken Pieces, where you're joined by Michelle Jones as a vocalist, and that one's like more traditional. The music's very atmospheric, but Michelle really adds her beautiful, soulful vocals to it. And I know this was like a personal album for her. Yeah. So how did that all come about? Because you've got the two that are like political and very different. And then you've got Broken Pieces, which is not mainstream by any means, but like more of a traditional song structure type thing.
Yeah, well, Ralph and I have known each other since 1995. And Michelle, actually, we did, quite funny to think of it now, a West End show called The Official Tribute to the Blues Brothers.
Oh, cool.
And it was a great gig to get because we were all very young. I must have been 26 or something. I can't believe I was 26 once. And we got this gig where we toured around Europe and the UK for a year and playing the Blues Brothers stuff. It was great. It was really good. We were playing to 2,000 people a night. We were like rock stars. We would turn up in town and there would be people wanting our autographs. I mean, come on, we're in a show.
Awesome. That's
sure.
Cool.
Our autograph. Anyway, we did that, and we stayed in touch over the years. And we did a band after it called Wanderlust that we nearly made it in the late 90s. You know, it was close. Record companies, interest, and then blah.
Oh,
Not quite there. So 20 odd years later, lockdown, Ralph calls me. Let's do some music. Oh, okay. I haven't spoken to you in 10 years. But yeah, we're like brothers though anyway, you know, so we said, right, we want to make it as progressive as possible. And there's loads of crazy stuff happening in lockdown. So we wanted to base it on this misinformation thing that's going on. And so that's how those albums happened. And we worked really fast. Hard and fast. So actually, while I was recording Milkbone, I was also recording with Ralph, and it was crazy. I was getting messages from Matt and Phil and Ralph, and lots of stuff happening. It was really good because I was in lockdown,
right?
So it kept me very sane. So yeah, we did all the instrumental stuff, and we'd done quite a lot of stuff. We did the zombie thing. We originally based it on Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
We had sound clips from it. And we thought we had permission to use them, and we didn't.
Oh, no.
The relatives of one of the dead actors said, hey, we've got the rights to the voice. You better stop. It's like, oh, come on. Some people said they can't do that. They really can't do that. And I said, I don't want to get into litigation.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not worth it.
We got a voiceover guy, changed the plot. Then the graphic novel happened with a guy called Phil Jolly, amazing artist. So by the time we'd done all that, we thought we needed a vocalist. We've done a ton of instrumental music. I'd done Milkbone. I think I haven't got another drum fill in me. I don't know what to play. Can we have a voice, please? So Michelle comes back. And she's had quite a journey as well with breast cancer, and her life has been quite a challenge at times. She has a great life as well. She's got great kids. So then Broken Pieces happened.
When you see that look on my face, don't Don't you take it for sadness, no. 'Cause I've seen many days in my life that I thought were numbered. If you can see the things I see, would you still wanna be me? If you can feel the things I feel, would you be in misery or just broken? You know that I'd do anything for you, anything it takes. Please don't take me for granted.
Yeah, we're all so proud of it. And we got a deal with a label called Highwire Records, which I'll talk about again in a second. So, yeah, Deep State, as you can tell by the name, you know,
Yeah.
we were very affected by some of the stories coming out of various places in the world and everyone's acceptance of utter crazy things. But we don't want it to be preachy. So we just want to kind of, I said to Ralph, you know, we can't tell these people they're wrong. That doesn't work.
No.
What we can do is just highlight it with our music. Just
Mhm.
It's a kind of passive commentary.
Right.
You know, the harder you push them, the harder they push back.
Yeah. Make it kind of allegorical.
It's sad. I mean,
Yeah, of
me in
course.
Florida, Courtney in Texas, you know, both of our
Yes.
states handled things very differently than your country did, the rest of our country did. And, you know, dealing with that nightmare, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And you're right. You can't argue. It doesn't make any difference. It makes things worse. So you just sit there and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do with this, you know, but I like that you had an outlet to music for music.
So I've got a couple of questions about your newest project, Killer Star, and I will combine a few of them. So this is a project with Rob Fleming. There is an album release and a launch show scheduled, I believe, March of next year. And I know that I pre-ordered the gold vinyl, which I'm really excited to
I
get.
did
It's
too.
actually going to come out right before my
Wanna see
birthday.
one?
So that was oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. I love the cover art on that.
I love
too.
that album art. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
So cool.
The gold vinyl.
Gold one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love it.
It's like gold lame.
I also very
Okay.
much appreciate that Highwire Records has free shipping to the US. So
Yes. Yeah, they have some deep connections there.
note to acid jazz.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did the project come about? How did you connect with so many of David Bowie's former collaborators for Killer Star? And what else can you tell us about the new album?
Wow, I have no idea how this happened. It's absolutely insane, isn't it? I still can't believe it myself. I'm holding it, looking at these names, thinking, wow. So, Rob is an old friend of mine, and he sent me a song, and he said, play some drums. I want it to be a kind of rock thing. Okay, I played him some drums, and then we didn't speak for 6 months. He then sent another song and said, I'm about to sign a singer called M. Griner, and she used to be Bowie's backing vocalist back in the early 2000s. I'm like, wow, yeah, I think I might have seen her with Bowie. Oh, fantastic, that's so exciting. And he said, maybe we could get her to do BVs on one of the songs I'm writing. It's like, yes, you really must. She's incredible. So he wrote another song, I did some drums, sent it to M. It came back with these layered vocals, harmonies, hooks. You can see why David Bowie used her. She, world-class vocalist. And then we said, can you introduce us to anyone else? This is all completely accidental. So then we got hold of Mike Garson, the piano player. Who, he started with David on the Ziggy Stardust tour, and he did the amazing Aladdin Sane solo. If you don't know the Aladdin Sane solo, check it out. It's the most avant-garde, brilliant piece of work. I know that in this house, we're obsessed with it and we always talk about it. It's one of the great moments. And my partner, Julie, is a piano player. So we always play it. And, oh my God, listen to this piano. How does he... And then he's sending us a track, his piano. Because we had him, we then got Earl Slick, who started with Bowie on Station to Station and also worked with John Lennon.
Wow.
Wow.
So cool.
And then Gaylan Dorsey plays bass, one of the best bass players in the world. And so we were writing songs, or Rob was writing the songs, I was contributing drums and some ideas. And so just track by track, we were then getting more of these people involved. And it was complete. Imagine if we had a master plan. Yes, we're going to do an album and we're going to get the finest musicians in the world to play on it, and they're all going to be David Bowie's musicians. You couldn't plan this. It's
No,
just,
that's amazing.
I think we
and,
assumed that you had, but just
Yeah,
well,
serendipitous.
did
you know,
assume that you had.
we're completely unknown to them. You know, these are kind of A-list, double A-listers. You know, they're the very top musicians, and me and Rob are, you know, working musicians. You know, we can play and we got stuff to do, but we're not known in those circles. So it's incredible how this happened. But the musicians loved the music, and Earl said to Rob, actually, Earl's become a good friend of Rob's now, which is amazing, that he loves that it's new music. He's not having to play Rebel Rebel in a tribute. He says, I'm done with that. Did it for a few years, and it was great to recognise David, but now there's new music to be made. So Earl really got on side, and he started giving us, I mean, I think we've got 40 tracks of guitars on one song.
Oh my gosh.
All harmonised, and there's different parts and different versions of the same parts. It's absolutely incredible. So then we get the Manic Street Preachers engineer and producer, Eringer, to produce it. Well, we produced it, he engineered it. And it's incredible what he did.
Should've known this. Had no time to think about it. You know you've gone too far. Looking at the stars, trying to find our way. Hoping everything's gonna be okay. Looking at the stars, moving time and space. God knows, sense of place. Should've known better. Should've known so much better. Should've known better. Should've known so much better. Should've known better.
It's actually quite a big deal now. And we've got American
awesome.
representation, and we've got it keeps growing. And we got Tim Lefebvre on bass, Donny McCaslin on sax from the Black Star album. And they were
really
delighted
amazing.
because they'd never played with the other band.
Oh, wow.
Because they were the later band.
That's really cool.
I think we met Tim at a gig in London, and he said, "Oh, you know, that the other band is another set of people. You know, they're the big guys, and we're the new guys." And
Yeah.
so they were delighted to be able to play with Mike Garson and Earl Slick. And just like Milkbone, it was all done separately. Everyone sent their stuff in, and our only advice to these guys was play whatever you think works.
Nice.
And they're like, "Oh, really? Okay." And of course, because they're all world-class musicians, this stuff came back, and I'm sitting in this room listening to it thinking, I can't believe what I'm hearing. It's so exciting. It's just... And then in the end, we got Mark Platty, who's Bowie's producer and guitar player. He produced the Opening album, which is one of my favourite albums. And he also produced some Cure albums. And I looked at his CV, actually, and he's done a Prince track.
Cool.
He's got with Prince. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So we've got some really good guys. And then we get Bowie's photographer, Jimmy King, who did all these portraits.
Wow.
We've seen a few of those already.
So it's going to be quite a big release, I think.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
It really is. It's all accidental. You know, none of it. Me and Rob are just normal guys, just trying to write songs and work together. And we're both, you know, we're just laughing. Each Rob would message me, going, "You never guess what." Oh, Slick's just contacted me. Oh God, no, I don't believe it. So it's like Christmas has come many times over.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and response has been good so far. You know, some industry people are getting it now.
Yeah. Oh, good.
It's been reviewed by some pretty big outlets already, the first single.
Yeah,
And they've all been glowing.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't know, when you're working with the legacy of Bowie, you have to be very careful and very respectful, because we're not trying to be Bowie or
Mhm.
I don't want to trade off Bowie's name, but this all happened completely accidentally. So
That's really cool.
yeah, I look forward to that coming out. I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Very excited. So the first single, Should Have Known Better, is out already. The second single will be out by the time this comes out.
This one is actually quite probably the new single. I can't wait to see what people think of it.
Awesome. Yeah. So, are you ready for some listener questions?
Oh yes, go for it.
Okay. Rich from Worcestershire asked, which of Matt's albums or tracks was your favorite to record and why?
For me, it was the hardest one, Night Terrors. That was a real challenge to learn it and to perform it and to get it down. So, and I'm so pleased with it. It's a great piece of music. And when we did the tour, he opened with it every night. Which was normally a song like that you put near the end when everyone's warmed up. So you go on cold and play that. It was good. But yeah, Night Terrors.
That's a good one. That was a triumph.
Sarah from Detroit asked, how did you get started drumming? When did you know this was what you wanted to do professionally?
I was very late. I was about 18, much later than normal people. I'd always liked it. I focused on it musically. But then I started, and by the time I was 23, 24, I thought, hang on. I was in terrible jobs, usual rubbish jobs, thinking, is this my life? Am I going to be standing here in 5 years doing this? And then I managed to get good enough to get this West End show with Ralph and Michelle.
Yep.
In fact, the same month I auditioned for the West End show, I also auditioned for The Cure. And I got down to the last few.
Oh, wow.
Which was very exciting. I had to go and do a video interview, audition where the new Cure album was played to me without drums, and I had to then put some drums to it as part of the audition. So that was very exciting for a minute, thinking, my God, am I going to join The Cure? I got a lovely letter from Robert Smith and the band saying, thanks for what you did. We love your playing. We've decided to go with this other guy. He's still with them now. Jason,
wow.
Still there. And
So it's hard to be too mad.
I can't be, yeah. And
Yeah.
Robert was so nice. He just said it was just a question of feelings. We felt this guy was the one. And, he really was. It was great. So then, big disappointment. Then I get this West End show and I think, oh, cool. I'll go and do that. Strangely enough, where we rehearsed, we shared a lockup with The Cure.
Oh, wow.
So this was really mind-blowing. So, they say, oh, you can put your drums in here. It was quite a big studio complex in North London. And I went in, and then there's all the Cure gear and all their set lists and everything. And I just stood there with the set list in my hand thinking, this is so weird. It's like when
That's weird.
One foot in, Europe, or 1 foot in Africa or something. It's like, whoa, I was here and I'm here. That would be quite good. But anyway, I'm going to do this. So anyway, I became professional then at about 26. And I've been penniless ever since.
Aw.
But it's good. I've enjoyed pretty much every bit of it.
Well, that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely hear your passion come through talking about it. It sounds
Yeah.
like you
Oh,
made
good,
the right
good.
choice. So I've got a little bit of a preface to this. Anyone who follows your social media or your YouTube channel can see that you're a gifted photographer and a wonderful band documentarian with your drum cam videos and your behind the scenes photos. So John from Nuneaton, Warwickshire, apologies, John, if I mangled that. John has enjoyed the lovely travel photos that you post on Facebook and would also like to know how you became the unofficial band historian.
I'm probably the only one that can be bothered to do it. I love it. I love to document everything that we do. And when we started, Matt wasn't so well known. So I thought Matt was very talented, obviously. And I thought, this guy is going to do well. I really must document this and get some photos. And, and Matt's not always comfortable with that side of things, so I had to be very respectful and not have a camera in his face every 5 seconds,
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed doing it and trying to capture the life of the band. And then by the end of it, as I knew everyone really well, I started setting up the cameras on stage. And sometimes it's just for me, so I can listen back to the recording and think, don't do that again, or whatever. It's instant feedback.
Yeah.
After the gig, I'm watching the recordings thinking, yeah, that's okay. I've still got a gig. But then I thought YouTube kind of blossomed a little bit later, and I thought I could share this stuff. Maybe people will be interested. So yeah, I've still got multiple camera footage from the 2014 tour that I need to try to put together, but it takes weeks to sync everything up and EQ it.
Yeah.
But it's great stuff. But it's good to have, because Matt hasn't done it now since 2016, is it?
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, "We will never play these songs again."
Oh.
And I thought, is he just saying that? It's a bit dramatic. I'm sure we will. And we haven't. And it's like, oh, he really means it. He moves on. So if we tour again, I think it will just be a completely new set. He may even use a different band. His mind is elsewhere. He's not in the past.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, Yeah, so I'm glad someone's looking at those photos and the videos.
Yeah. Your drum cam videos are the best because you have the best seat on the stage. You're like,
you see what I see.
Right. And so you get to see
Matt looking over at me.
Plus the best part of them, even though, the drums are like loud on it because that's where the camera is, but the video quality is so good for that time. Like, people were taking sketchy videos on cell phones, but your videos are really clear and really great. So it's really nice to see that part of it clear.
I love for you
and
guys
just
to
such a
see
unique perspective.
Yeah. There's only one
Great.
person with that view, and that's me.
Right.
And you get to see, there are points when he'll look up and look over at me, and I have to decide whether that's encouraging or that's I've done something wrong. And he never really does that. But it's interesting. You start to see the interact. I wish I had the whole stage in view, but the camera's not wide angle enough. If I knew now that we wouldn't do those gigs again, I would have done more cameras. But at least there's something.
Yeah. I mean, how could you have known?
We really do treasure what you do have.
Yeah.
The last listener question.
Multiple listener questions.
Multiple listener questions.
Yeah, so a lot of people want to know this. Us as well, we want to know this. Do you have any interesting stories about touring with the Maypoles?
Oh, God.
That you're allowed to share with us. Or, off air, you
or
can tell
ones
us
that
whatever.
you're not.
Yeah, we can edit anything out. But give us something we can share at least.
Oh, that's really challenging because the whole thing was fun. From getting in the tour bus, like we would sit in this splitter van, all facing each other, and at 10 in the morning, and the journeys were great fun. We'd all be chatting, and it felt almost, sad to be arriving at the venue. It's like, oh, we've got to stop talking now, and here we are at the venue again. But we went out and we had fun. There was never any egos. Everyone was good to work with. I don't think there was a crossword with anyone on any of the tours. I can't remember any bad feelings at all, actually. So yeah, I mean, it was all just good fun, working hard. We took the gigs so seriously. We wanted them to be so great because at the beginning we were trying to prove, I think Matt was trying to establish himself as a musician and not a comedian or an actor comedian. That was tough to break out of that with all the people shouting things, the quotes and things.
Yeah,
It's just so funny.
You can hear that on some of the videos too, unfortunately.
Just terrible.
I used to shudder a bit, thinking, is he going to go? Is he going to get cross now? Because I think he might. And, you'd sometimes look round at me like, and then not react. But I don't know, people feel they have this right to be part of the show. And, you're not part of the show. Just, you're there to enjoy what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why do you have to be heard? It's not part of the deal. But it got better towards the end, and people started turning up just for the music, and things changed. But I don't think there's any crazy stories apart from we went out a lot, we partied a lot. We often didn't party a lot because we felt tired, and it's like the gig comes first. So it's like we would say, tonight we go straight back to the hotel, we'll have a drink in the bar, and that was it. And then after 3 nights of that, it's like, right, we're going out. Everyone's going out. And I do remember actually, Matt, once in Manchester, there was a piano in the bar, and he started playing the piano, and it was all out of tune. And he said very loudly, "Someone get a piano from London." And that is not the thing to say in Manchester, to ask for something from London. And the pub just went deadly quiet. I thought, we're all in trouble here. We're in Manchester, and they don't like London in Manchester very much.
That's funny.
He was joking, but eventually the volume of the pub went back up again, and it was like,
oh God.
So,
I can picture that in my head, like record scratch, everybody's silent.
it was. Sent to London for a piano.
That's funny.
That's
It
the only
sounds
one
like-
I can think of off the top of my head.
Sound like you were the utmost
A good one.
professionals. Yeah.
Is there a favorite memory that stands out, or does it all just kind of blur into
The Albert Hall.
Albert Hall? I think that's what Phil said too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I must admit, I must admit, I lied to Matt on that gig because we were due on at a crazy time, like 7:27, and we were by the side of the stage at 7:25, waiting to go on. Matt was pacing around, and he said to me, "Are you nervous?" And he clearly was nervous, and I was not nervous. I was more like terrified. And I lied to him. I lied. I said, "No, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this." And he said, "Good, because if you're okay, we'll all be okay."
Aw, that's
Aw.
nice. And that's probably exactly what he needed to hear at that
That was it.
moment in
Absolutely.
time.
Yes.
Look after the talent, and then I had to and that kind of pretending you're okay is really good when you're not okay, because you
Yeah.
pretend enough, you can play the part of not being terrified.
Yeah.
So I just strode out to the drum kit and thought, just looked really positive, like, right, count the band in.
It's just another gig.
As I walked to the kit, I had these terrible thoughts of who had played there on that spot. And it was like that kind of thing where before you die, your life flashes before you. It was like that. I was thinking, Ringo, 1963. John Bonham, 1969. Jimi Hendrix, 1969. And I just thought, what are you thinking about that for? I thought, I wonder if my drum
Seriously.
kit is where Mitch Mitchell's drum kit was. Maybe it was. Stop thinking about that. I had to stop thinking. And that was all in the space of me just walking to the kit when my legs didn't work properly and I forgot how to walk.
Oh no.
It's like,
And
how
did
do
it
you
turn out
walk?
how you thought it would? Like, was it good?
We all played so well. The sound was great.
Yeah.
The audience were great. And Stephen Wilson, who we were supporting, one of the great musicians, his band, some of the greatest players of all time, was standing in the wings, kind of smiling and waving at us. And that was kind of great and kind of terrifying because there's the top people here and they're watching us. It was so strange. But I walked off stage and Stephen Wilson just said to me in the corridor, "Nice gig, man." I thought, that's good.
That's it. That's
That's
it.
awesome.
Made it.
Really nice. And, so that I'd love to do it again one day. It was if you live in the UK, maybe it's like playing Carnegie Hall, or,
Yeah.
Grand Ole Opry, or whatever,
Right.
one of those. So I can die happy now.
That's awesome. And your name is next to other people that have played there. So Ringo Starr, James Sedge,
Yeah, they'll be thinking that the next band that go on. Yeah,
I
do you
think they will. The next person that comes on is like James Sedge played here.
Right here.
You never know.
Yeah.
Killer Star.
Killer Star,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, you never know. Well, we've got the 100 Club on the 16th of March.
Yes.
We've got Earl playing and Mark Platty and M. Griner playing. So that'll be good.
Are there any plans for a tour with Killer Star, or is that wait and see?
With people of that caliber, it's very hard to get them in one place. I can't believe we've got who we've got, because everyone else is on tour. Otherwise, they said, "Oh, we'd love to come and do it, but I'm in Japan and I'm here." But we might do if the album does well. Who knows?
Yeah,
There could be opportunities. A lot of the band are based in New York, so we're thinking maybe we could do a launch party in New York.
Oh, hey, that's
Yes.
closer. There you go. That's only a
We can
2-hour
make
flight.
it.
Well, hey, Austin, Texas is the live music capital of the world. Just
That
putting
is
that
true.
out there.
So everyone tells me, it's whenever I used to go to New Orleans a lot, and everyone said, "You think it's good here? Go to Texas. It's even better."
Yeah, different vibe.
Maybe one day, but we might do it. We'll just see what happens. If there's enough interest, me and Rob would love to do it.
Well, we will keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. Do we have anything
Oh,
else?
thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to me droning on so long.
Thank you so much for
Oh.
being here.
Seriously,
Amazing.
thank you. It's been such an honor to be able to go through the album with you. Thank you for making time for us. As always, you can catch us at Obsessed Obscure on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that hip new app all the kids are talking about, TikTok. Also, we've created a one-stop link in bio page, which we keep up to date with links to purchase current album or pre-sales, and live show ticket links. So anything we've talked about today or on previous episodes can be easily accessed right from the link in bio. I know we can't wait to hear what everyone thought of this album, so please share your thoughts with us. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
Obsessed and so obscure. You and me and the BBC.